Let me just settle certain stuff. All right. Okay, I'm gonna start about 30 seconds time. So right now, make sure you're well seated, comfortable, or I don't know where you are broadcasting this. So just make sure you're comfortable before we start. All right. Right. Can, sure, no problem. All right. Just remind me later after class. All right. Okay, all right, it's about time. 8 sharp as promised. We will start off this webinar for today. All right, so welcome to the first program of the last minute webinar series, E-Math First, with me, teacher Jason, over here. All right, so grateful for the time over here. All right, you could have been just studying for another paper, doing another paper grinding, but yeah, you are here, so grateful for that. And yeah, let's just get started. Okay, so before we go through, of course, you need to know who is this tutor teaching you. All right, understand that you might have seen the broadcasting that's going on, but I believe it will be nice for me to introduce myself again. So in summary, all right, I'm Teacher Jason Yek, all right, because there's another tutor teaching as well with the same name, so kind of had to specify my surname here. All right, so the subjects and level I teach basically in summary all the secondary level math, all right, so I think I see some familiar names there. You could have seen me in your classes. But for those who are wondering what levels I teach, basically all secondary math, lower sec, E-math, A-math, and sometimes IP math as well. All right. So if you're wondering whether I'm capable, okay. In summary, I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics. So definitely I do have the vigor to guide you guys through this webinar as well. So the numbers here are just very rough figures over here, but I just want to let you know, all right, what I advocate is more of a two-way communication when I talk about math over here. All right, so in this particular 1 hour webinar, all right, we shall see how much you can gather or whether this benefits you in the end. All right, all these grades over here, should be B3, what's not, it's all about two-way communication over here. Okay, so I mean, if you see my photo there, fun fact, I mean, if you want to actually view how I actually teach, or in this case, I do have a social media account if you're interested. It's over there. I won't overemphasize. And for those who are interested, that's just me reliving life in some other country where I decide to de-stress by kicking stuff. All right, okay, without further ado, let's carry on. Okay, so again, thank you guys for having us to have this outreach. Okay, the reason why we have this many outlets here is because of you trusting us, in this case over here, having this many outreach over here in terms of in Telegram, in IG. I believe that's where you all have actually sort of seen us somewhere and in fact allowing me to guide you through this webinar. All right, so the number of outlets there, I believe you guys are aware already, but in short, it's just grateful for you guys to join me in this webinar here. Okay, and also following up all these statistics over here, 70%, all right, all for 70% of your scoring distinctions. All right, it's really more of a two-way communication over here that I advocate, or in this case, most of the overmarked teachers advocate when they actually conduct this webinar per se, all right, or when they teach in general. Okay, of course, we do need the credentials such that from NUS or NTU, or in this case, ex-MOE, ex-Learning Lab. But ultimately, we really do advocate the two-way learning style that we enforce during our teaching. All right, so these are just some statistics for you to take note and to be assured that whatever is gone through here is accurate. All right, okay, so without further ado, all right, in order to prepare for you to achieve sort of like your A1s, okay, I'm not saying after this you could be like, oh, okay, I can definitely achieve my A1s. No, that's not the case, All right, it's just helping you to prepare so that in this case, if you were to actually do your own revision, you can take note of these little pointers over here that I've gone through, and in this case over here, it might help you a little to sparkle some troubles that you guys might have when you are going through this particular paper per se. All right. So talking about papers, all right. So as broadcasted, all right, we will be going through the 2024 EMAth paper 2. Now you may wonder, teacher, tomorrow is paper 1. Why are you going through paper 2? Okay, the common thing is, all right, paper 1, paper 2, all right, the question can come either ways. Okay, so don't be too fixated because paper 2 or paper 1 won't come up. That is not the case. Okay, so there's one thing I want you all to take note of as well. Okay, in terms of paper 2, that's where I want you all to take note. Okay, for certain question types, what are the common concepts that we usually use? And in this case, the potential question types that may appear in terms of the questions that I've gone through in 2024. So don't just focus on 2024, but I want you all to branch out and tell yourself, when you see these questions, what are the possible types that may appear as well at your side. Okay, so any questions down the floor in terms of what we are going to go through and stuff? Okay, if you have questions, just shout it out in the chat. Give you 5 to 10 seconds to consolidate what is required. All right, if not, just stay silent. I don't think I will be able to capture 100 reacts over here. So just stay silent, all right, all is good. Okay, only when you have questions, just feel free to type it out. I'll give you all some time. Okay, if not, okay, the consensus is I believe you guys should have actually done the paper already. But if you have not, it's fine. Try to see how much you can capture over here. And in this case, for this scope, we are not going through basic concepts. So if you still forget, urge you all at your side, try to get them down as I go through only certain questions. All right, we only have 1 hour. I don't wish to skim through everything. I'm here to actually pick certain specific questions that I feel are important. Of course, if there's some more time, I will actually cover a bit more, but not to worry for the questions that I've not gone through. All right, at the end, whatever is written on the slide that I've not gone through, let's say maybe I didn't go through question 1, question 2, say for example, all right, it will be uploaded after this stream. Okay, so not to worry if you're wondering whether you are here just to get a little bit of insight. No, you'll be here to get everything. All right, but in this case over here, you will get everything. You will definitely get everything over here. Okay, I do have one insight already. Actually, ask how to reduce careless mistakes over here. So one thing in terms of careless mistakes, before I start to go through the questions, is to tell yourself, all right, the reason why you make careless mistakes is the fear of the timing that lingers. As the time lingers, you will tell yourself, well, time is ticking. Okay, each time is precious, and you let it haunt your life. So what happens? I advocate having this time constraint to allocate your time properly. So you know your paper is 90 marks. 90 marks is 2 hours and 15 minutes. This translates to 1 mark, 1.5 minutes. So you gauge yourself whether you are able to do, say, a 2-mark question in 3 minutes. Okay, so in this case, if you're not able to touch your pen within half of the time, so say for example, 3 marks, you're supposed to finish the paper in 4.5 minutes. All right, but all right, 4.5 minutes, but let's say within 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you're not able to put your pen down, go through the next question first. All right, which I will actually show you guys how to tackle this kind in the few questions to come. All right, so the first question I actually want to target is question 4. All right, this is a very, very special kind of question that will usually come out, and in this case, of a specific trend. All right, so in this case, all right, just roughly check through your answers, but that is not the focus. The focus is I want you all to understand how these type of questions are usually asked. So the first one is a must get. Okay, if you all never get, please make sure you all punch your calculator properly. In this case, especially for negative values, make sure your brackets are in the calculator itself if you put in the power. All right. Another way to check is also in part 2, when you're tasked to draw your graphs. Okay, let me just zoom out a little to show you the whole picture. When you're tasked to draw your graphs, all right, check that your graphs follows the way that it is actually taught to you guys. Okay, say for example, this is the rough sketch you have, but how you know your graph is a bit off? Like for example, let's say this point here, -1 at -1.5. All right, when you do the sketch, you realize my graph actually, let's say you plot it, here. So what happens, when you sketch a graph, it's going to look a little bit iffy like this. It's going to look a little bit iffy like this. Okay, it's going to be a bit of a hum. It's going to look a little bit iffy like this. If the shape is looking a little bit weird, that's where my part 1, I might have done this wrongly. Okay, but this is just a little emphasis at the side to make sure you plot your points properly, all right, because they will definitely ask you to plot the graph. Okay, so I don't want to emphasize too much on this as well. Okay, now, as I go through certain questions, I want you all to take note of the potential variant. Okay, this is not rarely asked, but in this case, it was asked actually in the 2023 paper, where you're asked to sketch a reciprocal graph, and in this case over here, they provide you with the negative and the positive side. Now, over here, take note, all right, this is a potential graph variant that you might have to draw at your side. And in this case, just tell yourself, please be very, very careful if you were to plot such graphs. Why? If you have a reciprocal, please, 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 do not, okay, join them together. All right, because if you ask yourself, this part here is when y is equals to 0 or x is equals to 0 or y is equals to 0. You type in your calculator, in this case, 0 plus 1 over 0, you're going to get a math error, which means that there are no values that exist. So in this case, if you have a reciprocal component, okay, just a variant, not to memorize, don't join the segments. All right, so something for you guys to take note. All right, you just draw your graphs, but I want you to take note that you should not have to join the segments for this case. You can look through it, 2023. This is a graph that they actually ask you to sketch. Okay, not exactly this kind, but involving reciprocals. So please be very, very careful. Okay, and on that note, please not just be familiar with reciprocals as well, be familiar with all your other graphs. Okay. So all the other graphs, example, like it's possible, all right, they can actually ask you to plot an exponential graph. So something for y'all to take note as well, okay? Because it is within the syllabus that you are tasked to actually sketch. Okay, I have further questions here. How do you know it's a reciprocal component, all right? As long as you see 1 over, that's a reciprocal. Jasmine? Okay, yes, 1 over x, okay, and 1 over x, 1 over x squared, 1 over x cubed, as long as you have a fraction. It's a reciprocal. Okay, so when I talk about reciprocal component, it is this thing here. Okay, not saying that because of reciprocal your eyes light up, but it's also sometimes it can be possible for you to sketch other graphs. So don't be too fixated on memorizing the question. You see the question, your graphs are like this. Be familiar with the fundamental concepts on drawing the graphs. In this case, reciprocal, we know that they do not join at this particular part. Okay, exponential, you do know, say for example, it goes something like this, it doesn't touch the x-axis. Say for example. Okay, so be familiar with the graphs that I've drawn. All right, good questions, keep it coming. I'll give you all maybe 10 to 20 seconds to consolidate before I move on. Okay, just give you all some time to consolidate. I think I don't need to consolidate first part, yeah? Okay, it's really just key in your values. It's more of the sketching and maybe this part here. Okay, not to worry if you all are not getting this writings here. At the end, I'll consolidate everything and actually upload it with the help of the staff over there. So not to worry, okay? Just take note of the key pointers. Okay, now, I think this one, the drawing, is fine. The main two things I need you to take note when you talk about graphs over here is the two style of questions. Use your graph to explain, in this case, a whole particular style of equation that doesn't seem to make sense. Okay, in this case, usually you are drawing a straight line to explain or determine the number of solutions. Now, before you go on to saying, sure, how do you get this right? Okay, check. These type of questions, you are always referring to the graph that is drawn in the question. Always remember to tell yourself, there is a reason why you have spent so much effort to draw this graph. You all take the eraser, make sure you all draw like Picasso, make sure your curve is very nice. You all make sure that each of your graph is actually very smooth to scale. And I have actually seen students that spend a lot of effort in that. Actually, I'm just curious. Most likely, I thought that you guys will actually draw graphs that are more casual, but I realize you all take too much emphasis on this. So just to make sure, as long as your graphs, okay, are not too sharp, smooth around the points, it's fine. Okay, I think I have one question. For the reciprocal, just reach the closest point. You don't have to go all the way to the end of the grid, but roughly to the extent, maybe I would say 3/4 of the grid to let the examiner know, it is reaching the end, but not the end. So you don't have to actually go all the way to the end of the grid. Roughly 3/4 will do. All right, keep the questions coming. For the solution, what do you mean by the solution, Joven? Okay, for this one, I will say long story short first, Chloe, okay, because it's not related. So number patterns, all right, it's not related to this, but number patterns in summary, I don't wish to drag this too long. So in this case, just remember, first thing, common difference. Okay, common difference over here. Just note that if there's a common difference, you can relate to a particular formula, which I will actually share with you later on. Please remind me over here. But if you see a common difference, that's where the number pattern comes in. Any point for the coordinate? It depends on the graph that you draw. All right, it depends on the graph that you draw. Okay, I've quite some questions over here. No worries. I'm actually going to go through all this whole question. No problem. Reciprocal, it goes both ways. One go up, one go down. Because you have to take note of the values that go negatives as well. All right, Sarah, you just take note. Because one goes up, because the x goes very, very small, you realize it goes very, very high. If x goes very, very small on the negative side, it will go very, very low. All right, you can key in your calculators to find out. Okay, now, all right, back to the context here. Use your graph to explain why the equation has only one solution, moving away from the x-axis. You mean this one? Yeah, this one is moving away. Yeah, it's moving away here and here. That's what I mean. It goes very, very high and very, very low. Okay, let me just see. Okay, give me a moment. All right. Area of a polygon. All right. For the questions that are not related, I'll try to answer them later. Yeah, in order not to drag. But area of polygons, long story short, you usually find the areas of your different triangles, right angle in this case. My x-axis. Okay, for this one, what happens? Because it is actually a combination of these two graphs. So that's why it will go away. But one thing for sure, you are not allowed to touch the x-axis or y-axis respectively. It is when you plot the graph. Okay, just make sure in this case, you will not go the y-axis or the x-axis. Okay, let me see whether I can answer all the query. In the fourth quadrant, yes, that's your reciprocal, Andrea. Okay, I got quite some queries here. Okay, so good question from Trisha. In this case, we don't round the value. You round to the lowest accuracy that you can find. So say, for example, this one, if I look at the x-axis, is from the negative 0.9 to negative 1. What's the closest we can read? 0.05. Okay, so that's the closest you go to. Don't round your values, yeah? All right, very good question here. All right, let's see. Okay, all right, let me see. I think there's one more. There's a fraction. Yes, you can think about it that way. I don't really like to memorize, but as long as there's a fraction, you don't join the graphs. If that's the best way. Right? Thank you, Joven, for helping me answer the query. No, Jay, unfortunately, I won't go through paper one cause of the time, but as I mentioned just now, all right, the questions that may come out in paper two will have potential to come out in paper one as well. So it's meant to be a revision. Okay, let's not drag too long. All right, let's explain this. So let's go back to this one over here. Yeah, the green line is what I'm going to explain later. So not to worry. It's all related to the whole question. Okay, funny back to part three. Just bear with me. So part three over here, remember, how do I explain it's only one solution? If you look at this equation over here, all right, it is actually related to the graph that you have drawn. So this graph that you have drawn is actually your y is equals to this graph. Correct? This is what you have drawn. Now, what is it trying to say when you have an equation, something equals to something? It is related, really, just saying that when you have two graphs that are equal, remember, when they are equal, you are finding the intersection. So how do you draw the graph for, in this case, y is equals to x? Okay, you just plot 3 points. Okay, I realize a lot of y'all like to overkill. You all do 8 points, 9 points. No need. 3 points. Just know somewhere, you realize I only plot 3 points. Why 3 points? Straight line, you only need 2 points. The last line over here is for insurance, just to make sure you draw your straight line. Okay, and in this case, you are only required to answer has only one solution, so that's where intersection. So this is a common style of question that can come about. We are drawing a straight line to determine the number of solutions over here. I'm going to go to that in a while. Okay, hopefully it helps. Hey, Lira, I'm going to go to that in a while. Yes, you can say so. So round to the nearest 2.2. Going up or down the graph. It depends on the graph that you are drawing, but just make sure you are following the points, Tristan, and then your graph will follow accordingly based on the behavior. How to draw that line? Just plot any 3 points over here. So in this case, y is equals to x, all right? You realize, okay, you follow the behavior. So this point, how I get? You substitute any 2 points. So sub x equals to 2, you're going to get y is equals to negative 2. That's 1 point. Y equals to x. The other one, you just sub any random point. You're going to sub x is equals to 0, y is equals to 0. Okay, last one over here, you're going to sub x is equals to 4, and you're going to get y is equals to 4. And there you have a line. Basically, you're choosing your points. All right, and then you score accordingly. No. Y is equals to x is because the function asked me to sketch y is equals to x. Okay, it's not because of convenience, yeah? All right, Sarah? Because the question say y is equals to x. So that's why I'm sketching the x graph. If the question maybe changes to, say, for example, all right, y is equals to 2x plus 2. You then sketch 2x plus 2 because we are finding the intersections of such graphs. Okay, I got a lot of questions. If you are sketching the graph, okay, all right. Just noted my error. Thank you for the note. It's x equals to -2, y equals to -2. All right, thank you someone for reminding me. Okay, let me just answer 2 questions before I move on, yeah? Right, the angle symbol. Yes, okay, I not related to the question, but yes, Anne. How do I know where to extend the line until? Make sure it fills the grid. Okay, all right, yes, right. Thank you for the reminder, Claire. All right, I've updated accordingly already. How long should we spend on this question? All right, in this case, just tell yourself 1 mark, 1.5 minutes. So you target yourself from there. Okay, which line? If you're talking about the line that you're drawing, just remember 3 points, 2 for safety, 2 to ensure that you sketch the line, 1 for safety. Yeah, paper 1, usually they will draw the graph for you because it's a short question. All right, so let me just run through part 3. All right, is use the graph to explain why the equation has only one solution. You just draw the line, explain. That's the start. Now, the next one, one of y'all asked me, I can't remember who. Why do we draw that green color line? That's where. This is one style of the question where you need to take note. Very important. Why? Because you're drawing a suitable straight line. Okay, drawing a suitable straight line from an equation that is not related, I call something like this reverse engineer. What do I mean? Basically, you have an equation that totally doesn't make sense. What do? You will work your way through till you have one side of the equation such that you have this particular part over here. So what do I mean? In this case, you have this equation. Okay, I know there are some questions coming. Let me finish up this out first. Okay, so I have this equation over here. Now, how do I work this through such that I can use my grid? I want to make use of this. So what you are essentially doing is that for this one, sorry for that, is that you will need to make sure that this particular equation comes up. Sorry, this one comes up. How do I make sure? First, you know, for this question, we have a 2x squared. Okay, I don't know why my grid cannot appear, 2x squared. But it has a 4x squared. So how do I convert? Best way, divide by 2. Then you realize dividing by 2, I have these two things here to be the same. All right, but what happens? This is a -4. So how do I get -4? I subtract 2 both sides. So in this way, you are actually reverse engineering your way through such that you have the drawn graph on one side and the line to draw. All right, this is the line to draw on the right-hand side. So over here, what you're doing, you're drawing the line y is equals to -2, and that's where you have that green line here. And after that, once you have the green line, is really noting that, okay, the intersections will give you the solutions. Okay, if your value is a little bit off, usually plus minus 0.1, it's fine. Okay, so that's where I get this down over here. And in this case, I will have 3 values over here. Okay, negative 0.9, 1.2, 3.8 in this case, all right. Okay, over here 3.7, sorry for that. Let me change a little, but you realize even though if I write 3.7, it's fine. Plus minus 0.1 off, okay, 3.8. Okay, I know there are some questions. Let me finish up the variant as well. So one way to do is this. The other variant is they can ask you to form your equation. I think one of you asked me that just now. So it usually comes in parts. So what they will do, they'll ask you to draw, in this specific case, the line. After that, find the intersections And they will say these values of X are solutions. So instead of working it this way, you are now working it this way. All right, so that's a potential question variant. So right now over here is the different style of questions that may come about at your side. Okay, let me see. Okay, all right. I appreciate if the comments are related to the webinar. Thank you. Let me just see who else. To get a green light, to use a new equation that gives me yes, absolutely correct, Jasmine. So you need to actually, that's why I call reverse engineer, get to the equation that is given over here. All right, cool. Can I? Okay, so for this particular question, all right, I am actually focusing on two particular variants that you need to take note. Not so much for A part 1, A part 2, yeah? These two, it's giveaway, all right? Just make sure you give your, sketch your graphs well. The one that's more important is, in this case, knowing what line to sketch given the situation. And also given a very foreign equation, just tell yourself, okay, don't be scared, breathe in, breathe out. You are reversing engineering your way through. All right, cool. Okay, so take some time to absorb just mainly these two parts. All right, if there are any questions, feel free to let me know. I will wait for maybe about 30 seconds for those questions to come. All right, just type yourself, take some time to consolidate what is required. Okay, for those who just came in just to let you know, I won't be able to go through all the questions, but mainly those that I feel is important and emphasizing at your side. Okay, I do have one question coming. Okay. Yes, exactly. That's right, Nico. That's right. So you just manipulate to get the graph equation, but make sure you balance properly. Can you see the graph again? Sure, give me a moment. Yes, it is not just a suitable line, it is the line. It is the line, Jay. Okay, why negative 2 again? Okay, so let me explain it one more time before I go to the graph, yeah? So, this is the equation I need to solve. But you don't just press your calculator and solve. You do that, you won't get the mark. What you need to do, you need to work with the grid, which is basically this graph in this context. So you are just reverse engineering your way through by balancing the equation. In this case, I have 2x squared, so I divide by 2 on both sides. 0 divided by 2 is 0. After that, you subtract 2 because I want to get minus 4. Minus 2 is minus 4. 0 minus 2 is minus 2. That's where I get my minus 2 there. And to answer the question, here's the graph. Part 4. Part 4, sub in the relevant values into the new equation. No, you don't sub in the values. I think you're talking about part 3. Part 3 to sub in, to sketch the graph, yes. Potential question part 3. You talking about this one? Oh, this one. Okay. So this one, what happens? Okay, let me explain one last time, yeah, before I move on to the next one. I don't wish to drag too long. Okay, so these values of X are solution part 3. What you usually do is because of the intersection of this part here, will give you the solutions. So in this case, you are just working your way through to here. All right, got it? All right, so this is the potential one, where instead of working it this way to get to the graph, you are equating the graph to the line drawn to work to the other direction. Okay, where to draw the orange line? Here. This is your orange line for part 3. Okay, I'll leave maybe about 2 to 3 minutes more for this question before I move on, because I don't wish to spend too much time on one of them. Yeah, I hope you all understand. Yes, that's right, Joy, because they intersect, therefore find AB by manipulating the equation. No problem. Part 4, here you go. All right, I'll give you a while. Okay, I'll wait for 30 more seconds before I move on, yeah? Okay, so the orange line, yes. So the orange line is just y equals to x because of the question here. Then afterwards, I just sub 3 specific coordinates. Not values, coordinates. Because I'm plotting a line. Remember, one line, 2 points just nice, third point for safety, as I mentioned. Okay, I think if there are any other questions, I'll proceed on later. All right, so in this case, that's the part. Yeah. All right, if there are any other questions, I'll proceed later. Yeah. Okay, I'll just answer one more before I move on. Part 4, you just need to, yes, you just need to answer the question. In this case, just the points here, as I mentioned. Okay. Part B, I think I'll just touch a little and go. You have 3 points, so you literally you are just subbing it to find the point. So I don't want to emphasize too much on this. The main thing is the graph of functions and graphical solution style, whereby I want you to take note of the two different ways that they can go through. Okay, so just give yourself some time before I move on. You can, all right, now the next one that I intend to go through, this is a very, very common question as well. All right, so when you look at this, when you see bearings drawn, something about finding distance, finding area of a triangle, I want you to take note, okay, this is usually the format that they can go through as well. And I guess for such questions, I've taught quite some students, all right, as well. Whenever I see these type of questions, I realize all your papers are very clean. I don't know why, but just take note, if they give you a diagram, they spend a lot of effort drawing. So in this case, they are trying to tell you, please make the diagram more detailed. What do I mean? Okay, in this case, say for example, let me go through the flow first while I tell you what I mean in this case. Okay, usually, all right, you may assume that yes, all these details are drawn, therefore I just, roughly the diagram will draw accordingly for you. But take note, it is not always the case where every detail drawn in the graph is always not in the graph. In the picture, it's always shown there. What do I mean? If you take a look at the pink color one that I highlighted, it says it's a bearing, yes. But is it drawn for you? It's not, right? So please indicate. The orange color one, is it drawn for you? No, right? Please indicate. Due west, you all need to know your compass north, south, east, west, all 90 degrees of each other. So you need to take note. Yes, it will be uploaded to YouTube. Yeah, so not to worry. Okay, so back to the context. All right. So in this case, please, I would say you may not hear this phrase in your teachings, but what I mean is, all right, since you are here, please vandalize. Vandalize your diagrams and make sure it benefits you. So this is one pointer, I leave it for you. Vandalize doesn't mean you draw graffiti there. No, you vandalize by adding extra detail over there. Okay, and usually in this case, first question, solving using angles, bearings, using a cosine or sine rule, depending on the context. Okay, now some of you all may forget your sine rule and cosine rule. So what I want you to do, always remember to check what is given in the formula sheet. When you talk about finding angles, you'll be like, oh, I need to remember this formula. But actually, there's no need. Why? You have this one given in the formula sheet. Know how your formulas are actually constructed. So in this case, you want to find cosine BAC. This is BAC, right? Know your formulas. In this context over here, the side and the angle, respectively, are directly opposite each other. Okay, so this is where you need to know how your formulas work. And in this case here, these two are basically the sides that are actually forming the included angle. So once you have this, you can just input, the rest are manipulations, and therefore you have your shown angle. But one thing to take note, because if there's a part A, there's going to be a part B, C, D, just tell yourself this value is going to be used. So always remember to leave intermediate answers, 5 to 7 significant figures to prevent rounding error. Okay, so this is the first part over here. All right. Yes, Natasha, it's always 90 degrees. Your compass always works that way. That one you can always 100% confirm. It's always 90 degrees. Yes. Okay, next one. Will you annotate not labeled as a letters? Yes, you have to indicate a letter. So in this case, you can indicate like N1. So when you draw bearings, you have many north lines. All right, good questions over here. So let's say you realize one north line, very hard to indicate. All right, maybe you want to indicate the second north line. You draw a straight line. Okay, then you don't want to keep writing N, okay, to get confused at your side as well. So what you can do is that maybe you can say this is like your N1. And then maybe you go to C, it's like a N2, N3, N4, so on and so forth. Okay, I don't think you have so many north lines to draw, yeah, but you get my point. Okay, you get my point. Okay, now, since we are at the north lines, one thing I want you all to take note, okay, this one I believe if you all practice enough, you'll see this trend, but just a reminder, okay, don't assume your north line is vertical. Okay, all these I believe you are aware, but don't assume all your north lines are vertical up. Okay, if you see certain questions, they can point 45, they can point a weird angle. Follow the question. Okay, so that's one thing I need you all to take note. And in this case, let me zoom to part A first. Okay, before I move on. Okay, let me just answer. Confirm. Yes, Dino, confirm 90 degrees. I guarantee you. You can be sure. Always that case. Sorry, Nico, what do you mean? Oh, my north line, is it? So sometimes what I mean is in the question can say that your north line is pointing like this. Okay, your triangle can be this way, but your north line is pointing like that. Follow the north line as such. That is what I mean. That is an error. Okay, that is something the question will treat you. Lucky you are here. That's why. So you will follow the question where how your north lines are drawn. If your north line is drawn in a 45-degree angle, you follow the north line drawn in the question. If your north line is pointed this way, you follow it this way. Something to take note. Something to take note, okay? So remember, if you see a question, you note how the north lines are drawn first. No, it will not be deducted because you have indicated in the diagram already, Joyce. So that way, you will not be marked up. So not to worry. Okay, I know my drawing is not the best, but I hope you all get the point. Okay, cool. Okay, next one. First one, we know is soft angles. So if you realize for this one, if you're using cosine rule, next one usually is sine rule. Ultimately, for this question, I would say if you want to use cosine rule, they will not fault you. It is possible because your triangles are powerful enough. What do I mean? Okay, if you realize over here, DAC, I never indicate, right? So please indicate in the diagram, DAC 97.86. Yeah, please vandalize and make sure it benefits you. Okay, therefore, you realize what happens. Question asks you to find, in this case, AD, right? AD is in this case, this particular length over here. Here, always ask yourself, don't memorize the question type. What are the rules to help you? Okay, you realize cosine rule for formula, you usually need two known sides. This one only have one known side. So what happens? Chances are you will need the sine rule. Okay, play along with the formulas, you'll get to that accordingly. Okay, now AD we know we can find, in this case over here, we know is this side. Remember sine rule, opposite sides to apply. The only thing that is missing is don't see, okay, 280, 32 degree. I don't know the angle opposite. Never mind lah, I just pick this. Please, follow your formulas accordingly. 280, and this one, please find my angle here. Follow the particular notion of your sine rule. Okay, it's really just, in this case, angle sum of triangle. You're working it 50.14. Okay, so if you look at the workings that I have, 50.14, I'm going to let you stare at the diagram for a while. Noting that these two are opposite and the other two are opposite. Okay, then you realize how to apply my sine rule. It all follows through. Okay, so mention again, I won't say why the sine rule is like this. You all should know how to apply by now. I'm just letting you know how to apply it correctly and don't assume you just pick the angles accordingly. Yes, you can randomly allocate them, but remember the way the rule is being formed. Like sine rule, just remember the sides and angles are opposite each other, Natasha. Then for the cosine rule, in this case, if you work with the formula that is known, these two are opposite each other. These two are the ones that form this angle. So you have to, so that's the trend to know the particular formulas to use. Must I write the angles at the pointing? Okay, good question, Jasmine. I'll answer that in a while. Let me just see, Trisha. It will be shared. It will be shared. It will be shared, not to worry. It will be uploaded soon. For the reasoning, must I spell the whole thing? Very nice. Okay, you guys are actually towards one common question, which is this. Now, depending on schools, I would say, for schools, some schools are okay with it. Some schools are very particular. But for me, I'm a very particular person. Right? So if there's any reasonings, all right, I want you to write it out. So question number one, answer. Question number two, must you spell the whole thing? No. Use abbreviations, shortcut, they can understand. Okay, let me just see. What's the difference between cosine rule and sine rule? Okay, so this one, Jay, I urge you to actually get to the formula sheet because that's where you have known the difference between there lah. Okay, these two rules are in the formula sheet, so I need you to actually take note, refer to the formula sheet, get to how the formulas are formed. Yes, yes. It's finding 1 point. Yes, Emily, just right. All right, don't get yourself marked down. If it's finding 1 point to another, angles must have 3 digits before decimals. Yes, but from calculator like corresponding angles. If it's bearings, yes. If the normal angles is 3 digits, yes, follow through. All right. Okay, it depends on schools, but again, I'm a very particular person, so I'll be say it's best to write it down if you see angles that you are required to find. All right, so if you find interior angles, just write down. Angles at the point, just write down. Vectors, it depends on the time. I actually have one more question that I want to go through, but we see how it goes. Yeah, correct. Yeah, you can write it short form here. Okay, I'll just answer two more. Angle. AA similarity test will do. It's not related, but yeah. Just write it down in short form. AA will do. No, good question. Adjacent angles on a straight line. You must write the word adjacent. Adjacent angles on a straight line and angles on a straight line are two different things. All right, you must write the word adjacent. Okay, I'll just answer one more, yeah? Yes, your reasonings you can write short form. We call it abbreviations. You don't need to write the long form. Some schools emphasize long form, but short forms are enough to understand. All right, cool? Can Okay, I'll just answer one more before I move on because I got quite some to cover. Question 27. Today we are only going through paper 2 Yingyi, not paper 1. So sorry about that, yeah? Because it's meant to be just a last minute revision. Yeah, can. No problem, Sarah. Okay, can I? Let me just go through the last one. Now, for the last one, what happens is, okay, tendency for such questions when you're finding angles of elevation of T from B, all right? I don't know why, but tendency is when you all tackle such questions, you all like to draw where, how do I say? You all like to draw in such a way whereby you all like to mix in the diagram. What do I mean? Angle of elevation of T from C is 34 degrees. So what you all will do? T from C. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so y'all will actually draw my triangle like this. T from C is 34. So y'all will draw T from C is 34. My first question to you is, hello. This is not a very nice angle to draw, not a very good viewpoint to do. All right, so if you actually want to draw out separate triangles. Draw it out this way. Make sure you can visualize. In this case, you're finding the height. Then from there, you draw a second triangle that corresponds to T from B. So in this case, T from B, which is over here. Okay, so draw out separate triangles to help you. And in this case, you realize this is just working out one triangle. This is just working out the other triangle. Okay, let me see what other questions I can find. 8 at 6, part 1. All right, not to worry. If I have the time, I'll go through because you realize right now I'm nearing the end. So if I have the time, I'll go through accordingly. All right, so as mentioned, I won't be able to go through all. I hope you understand. Angles of elevation and depression, what is the difference? All right, if you note the meaning here, elevate means you are looking up. Depress means you are looking down. So this one you have to take note lah. Okay, the notion, elevated, you are elevating up. Depressed, okay, you are looking down, up and down accordingly. Okay, now, one potential variant question, all right, before I answer more questions over here, is noting this. All right, we need to find, okay, a possible question can be asked to find the greatest angle of elevation over here. So in this case, one variant is this, all right? A vertical mass sits with a height of 189. Find the greatest angle of elevation. So you picture first, a vertical mass sits on A, greatest angle of elevation as it walks along CD. Okay, walks along CD here. We know one thing, all right? For this one, I want you guys to take note. For the greatest angle of elevation, all right, I want you guys to take note that we are finding the shortest distance. Okay, in this case, the shortest distance is the perpendicular distance. Okay, it is always this particular trend. I want you all to note this down. Okay, in this case, walks along the path CD lah. Okay, so in this case, what we are doing, if you are being asked this, we are really noting this particular triangle over here, where it's perpendicular. So we need to find this distance first before we find this triangle. Okay, all right. So I want you all to take note of this particular potential question variant before I go on to the, I think I only have time for one more. Thank you for your initiatives, but I think I only have time for one more. Smallest angle of elevation. So you ask yourself, greatest of angle of elevation is shortest distance. Smallest angle is? It goes inversely. What if you cannot visualize the triangles? Urge yourself in this case. All right. Okay. Say for example, if you cannot visualize, draw out the sides that correspond first. So example, this one, T from C. So we are elevating. You have to know the definitions well for this. T from C. So this way, right? So we are elevating from T from C. So we know it sits out AT first, T from C, then we draw it out accordingly. Sometimes the description do help you as well. All right, so yeah, that's that. Okay. I think no problem. All right, I think I have time for one more before I move on to one more question. I think that question will be one of the most sorted ones. Okay, if I have time, I will go through that. If I have time, I'll go through that. I think that is one very well sorted question. Okay, all good, Okay, all right. It's actually, I want to go through three particular questions, but thank you guys for being so responsive. All right, it's been a while. So I actually want to go through one question type that may actually cause quite a little bit of, I hope, assurance at your side to know that what they are looking out for. Okay, this one, I believe the chat will burst, but it's okay. I'm willing to let it go. Okay, so in this case, the last question that I think I have time for, the last one that I want to go through is actually the, yeah, I know I'm skipping a lot. The last style of question that you all will usually go through. Now, for such questions, I understand. Sure, how to start. Sure, how to do. Sure, how to make sure you get the mark. Okay, hold your horses before you all go through those messages. I understand that this question will be a little bit of a thing for that. Okay, no worries, no worries. Yeah, if I have the time, not to worry. Okay, so for such questions, I know there's gonna be a big hoo-ha. Sure, how to score? Sure, how to score full marks? All this. Okay. The thing is, if you realize, right, for such questions, if you actually source out from online, there will be different type of responses. But what's one common thing here for such response, especially for the longest type of question, is okay, not so much for part A, part B. These two are really more like teasing you to make sure okay, the accuracy. Example, shape of the cube, total mass. Okay, if you are obedient, you look at the procedure here, you will realize, oh, total mass, follow formula, whack, clear. Okay, but I think the one that actually sorts of get you down is part C. If you realize, if you look, oh, I get this answer, I get that answer, oh my god, the questions, the variations are such a lot. Okay, it is because if you take a look at the description of the question, the way that they're asking is actually not so precise also sometimes. If you look at it, okay, the precise one is a geometrical similar, height of the smaller cylinder, yada yada. But if you look at this question, small profit. How small is small? Can be 50 cents, can be $1, can be $2. Okay, don't go to Epson and write $1,000. That one is not small. Okay, it can be, but don't go to Epson and write 1 cent also. Okay, 10 cents, 20 cents, $1. You have to define your own small profit. Okay, and then suggest a suitable amount to charge. Okay, for this question, you realize I'm assuming to charge for 1 candle. You will see my workings later. But if you realize, if you look at this question, okay, you can sell in 10 pieces. So bundles of 10. So what's the best way to actually score for this type of questions is if you realize the trend for 2023, 2024 last year, they will always give you a certain procedure to follow. So if you want to make sure you get most of the marks and play safe and not to tear your hair out on that particular exam day to make sure, wow, this type of question, I see already, I mind blank, I shut down, okay? Just tell yourself this one thing. If you look at the highlight and this tip over here, you will just need to score on the workings that follow the procedure very closely, and your majority of the marks will be there. What do I mean? Okay, so if you take a close look here, in order to know a suitable amount for him to charge, he will actually need to know. I know the questions are coming, not to worry, I'm aware. Just let me finish up first, okay, before I answer. Okay, each size of candles, all right, in order to charge, he needs to know how much he produce, right? So say for example, okay, geometrically similar, all right, you know to find corresponding height, it's just the ratio, so you find accordingly, yada yada, okay, you can find all that. But how to make sure you can find the mass is really, okay, you know real world context what to do. Example, if you're fixing a car, you need to know, okay, step one, maybe open the car boot, step two, open the engine oil to check whatever relevant stuff. You follow the procedure accordingly. So in this case, example, small candle, you need to know the mass, correct? So you follow the procedure. Total mass of candle is the volume of the mole, okay? It give you in cylinder. So this one, please be familiar with the volumes of your cylinder. If you forgot, now's the chance for you to catch up because only certain formulas are covered. So you find the total mass, and then you realize, okay, what is the amount they are charging? So you look again, okay, they are charging for wax, fragrance oil, candle wick. So you need to know how much wax you are charging, how much fragrance oil you are charging. How to know the mass? Procedure is given, everything is given there. Follow the procedure. Whacking bit by bit, you know the mass of the wax, okay? Fragrance oil, length of the wick, okay? How do I know it's 8.5? Again, follow the procedure, okay? The wick is 5 mm longer than the height. Original height is 5. 5 mm is 0.5 cm, yeah? So that's why it's 8.5. Follow the procedure. I will assure you, you will get most of the marks they require to guarantee. Why? Real world context is knowing how to apply depending on the situation. They are looking out for that. If you can apply the analysis, sure, no problem. Different analysis depending on the situation. All right, in this case, what I'm analyzing is that I am actually combining these two candles to make sure that I'm utilizing the materials efficiently. Okay, and from there, we know we can actually get these price points to know the total cost. And we know in this case, I'm assuming a small profit of 3. It can be 2, 4, what's not. Okay, then after that, I will want to know that the cost is relevant to the candles. I apply a ratio accordingly with the volume ratio like this. Okay, so moral of the story for such, follow the procedure. You will be fine. All right, that's the case. Okay, let me see the questions. What are some common assumptions that I can make for real world problems from the question? So if they say it's a cylinder, it's a perfect cylinder. If they say it's a cube, it's a perfect cube. You can go and be like, okay, the perfect cube, maybe the tip furrowed a little bit. No. You can assume whatever shapes they are given is perfect. That's one, Natasha. Okay, let me see. Question 6A. Okay, 6A is it? Okay. I will get to there in a while if I have the time. Let me just take a look. Okay, for that one, I would say if you follow the procedures, you will get at least, I would say, 60% of the marks required. So 4 marks guaranteed if you follow the procedure. Because want to find the height, you are already just finding the materials. You already know you're applying the real context. So they have to give you the majority of the marks from that. Okay, let me see. Number patterns, maybe tricks. Okay, if I have the time, I'll go through a short summary. Mensuration formulas to memorize. Okay, I'll get to that in a while. Okay, I think most of the focus, mensuration. Okay, a lot of mensuration. AMF techniques like logarithms, no need, but I would say no need. There's no need to. There's no need to. Based on my you can use, but there's no need to. That's what I can say. You have to assume every month of the year the same number of days. Do you use 30 or 31? They will tell you. If they never tell you, chances are those values are not needed to be used. Yes, write it down, Sherilyn. You have to write it down. If I have time, I think I'm running out a little, so sorry, but I think I'll do number patterns, the little tips over there, and mensuration if I have the time. I don't think I have. What can they test for problems in real world context? Anything ranging from money to maps and scales to weight to selling stuff. So anything in particular, as long as you do that part. Yeah. Mass of wax. Why you divide by 1.8? Okay, so if you look over here, mass of fragrance oil is 8% of the mass of the wax. So if I were to say this is 8% of the mass of wax. Okay, if you factorize it accordingly, just like my working here, if you realize that's my 1.08. Okay, wait I think I might have missed reasoning. No need to spell the whole thing. How to get the selling price for a profit of $3? Cost price is 36, profit plus 3, 39. No problem, Erin. Okay, let me see. There are quite some queries here. Summary or vectors, a little bit tough, but maybe after that you can ask in the Telegram chat. Okay, I'll try to answer them accordingly. Wow, prediction. This one I don't want to give and make sure this will come out, but based on the trend, you can sort of assume that money is sort of relevant, so maybe money type of questions may come out. Then, because if you see the trend, first one is 2023 was electricity, 2024 is something got to do with mass. So maybe high chance or a slightly higher chance can be money related. Okay, can? Okay, I think I have quite some queries. So, give me a moment. Yeah, all right, not too. Okay, so let me see. I think I cannot see most of the question number pattern formula. Wait, I have quite some questions. Constructions depends mostly, usually paper one. Okay, probability. Oh, wow. Okay, Nico, for your question, right? Okay, maybe I just answer maybe 2 or 3 questions are oncoming. So any other questions, please divert to the Telegram chat so that I can answer them accordingly whenever I have the time. That's not relevant. Okay, so this year's paper, okay, I don't see whether it's hard or not, but generally based on my POV, things are getting more versatile. So my golden advice here is do not memorize the question type. What do I mean? Say, for example, maybe let's pick a question that I've gone through. Let's say this question type. Let me see. Okay, if you see all the writings there, don't worry, it'll be sent to you after the stream. Yeah. Okay, if you see, let's say this question, let's say question 4. Okay, this question type. Okay, you see this one, you'll be straight away like, oh, okay, let's reverse engineer straight away. Okay, oh, okay, it will always usually ask me in terms of algebraic. Okay, if you realize over here, I mentioned that there is a possibility that exponential graphs may be drawn. Okay, so always expect the unexpected, in this case, exponential graph, but just remember, as long as you work throughout the tips over there, it will work it out true for you. Always remember, this is the scenario. Paper 2 questions, yes. Okay, I'll just answer a few more. Population, is it considered exact or not? Do you need to round up and down? If there are no decimal points, it's exact. If there are if there are decimal points, it's not exact. If there are decimal points, round to 3 exact. Unless questions say otherwise. Okay, I think I just have 2 more. Any tips for weight questions? Know your speed formula. Mainly speed will come up. Will graph questions come out in paper 1? Possible. All right, they can ask you to spot the shape of the graphs and what's not. Okay, Ken. I think I just have 3 more minutes to follow. All right. So in this case, okay, so sorry for those. I understand that there are a lot of queries. So if I have time, all right, I will actually conjure up maybe like a short summary and actually ask the marketing to post, ask my staff, my helpful staff to actually post it on Telegram, and then you'll get to view it accordingly. So not to worry. All right. And let me see. 3SF, 2DP, or 2EDP? Look at the question. But if the question never say, always 3SF. Okay, let me see. Money, always nearer cent. Mensuration, yes, always come out. Just assume either or they will come out in paper 1. Inversely proportional. Okay, I think there's one high chart. What chapters to focus on? Very hard for me to say, but in this case, I would say generally for paper 1 questions are short questions, so you can neglect the fact that this long style will not come out. Okay, just remember paper 1 is short questions, paper 2 is long questions. Got 5 SF. Yeah, for intermediate answers. Thank you, Jovan, for answering for me. All right, let me see. Okay, I'll just answer one more. Where's that one more? What type of graphs will we need to memorize? That the graphs you have learned. So the linear graphs, quadratic graphs, those you need to know. Okay, then your x power 3 graphs, x power -1, x power -2. All right, but I would say these ones, yeah, if you talk about memorizing, even though it's a pet peeve of mine, yes, these two graphs. For calculating mean, if the number comes out twice in the range, need to count that number. Let me see whether I can understand your question. Calculating mean, the number comes out twice. Based on what I understand, the number shouldn't come out twice. You only need to find the average of the number. So you find the middle value and you just use the middle value. 2, 4, 4. Yes, then yes, yeah, of course, of course. High chance, yes. If not, construction questions. If not, paper 1 and paper 2. Yeah. Okay, let me just see. Okay, I'm just going to tackle one more. Yeah. Okay, so mensuration. Let me just share the tips over here. What can we do currently with exams tomorrow? All right, so I will just share one last part. So sorry, I know there are a lot of queries. Okay, this one over here, I want you to take note. Okay, there's just some hidden formulas that you actually can find out in your formula sheet. So what happens? Some of them are actually not done there, but I've actually sort of whack out some hidden formulas for you guys so that you all can take note. So in this case, you realize from there, we can actually come out area of the circle, volume of the pyramid, and volume of the prism respectively. All right, so just take note of this and as such. All right, thank you for helping me out over here. I see quite some of you all are helping me out. That's good. Yes, Nicole. Yes, Nicole. There's certain years whereby construction questions doesn't come out. And in a way, construction questions are usually only 4 marks or so. So not saying you should neglect, but don't put too much emphasis on construction questions. But based on friend, if I'm not 2023, it did not come out. 2024 did not as well. So stand by 2025, it will come out. Okay, that's my prediction. It may not be 100% correct, but just take note. Okay, maybe I'll answer a few more. No. Pyramid is 1/3 1/3 not half 1/3 Okay, there's a high demand for number patterns, so I'll just exceed 5 minutes and tell you all how to do number patterns questions, yeah? Not really say summarize number patterns questions how to do. Okay, there's a very high demand for number patterns, so next 5 minutes, I think I can consolidate that. Now, for number patterns, right, the common trends that I need you all to take note is this. The first one that I need you all to take note is that, okay, usually when number pattern question comes out, okay, I want you all to take a look at common difference. Okay, what I mean by common difference? So say, for example, you have a pattern like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, Okay, this is a number pattern with common difference. So we know it's an addition of 2, so plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, and so on. Okay, so what is the main formula? All right, for common difference, good news is there is a standard formula that you all can follow. All right, in this case, it's not dn. All right, okay, so let me write it down. It's going to be a plus n minus 1 of d. Okay, so this is your first term. Okay, this one is your common difference. This is your common difference, yeah? Okay, let me just take note of certain stuff first. Okay, this is your common difference. Okay, so for common difference, you can take note of this. Okay, so one thing about number patterns is you will usually need to spot for common difference, or in this case, another common one is maybe like even numbers where you have something square or something cube. Okay, and last style also, if you have a sum or a subtraction, usually both of them will follow different patterns. So something you all need to take note of. This is in summary of what I can give you already. Okay, so the one side will follow one pattern, the other side will follow one pattern. No common difference? Yep, so in this case, squares, or in this case, usually follow different patterns. Commonly, they will ask for common difference, all right? Okay, yes. Perpendicular height. Yeah, that's right, you need the perpendicular height, Joven. I think I'll answer a few more. Non-common difference, very hard because if you have a non-common difference, the next one will be your squares and cubes that you need to identify. And if the pattern looks weird, adding and subtracting, chances are one side will follow a particular pattern, the other side will follow a particular pattern as well. Okay, let me see. Okay, I think I'll answer just a few more. Yeah. Prism formula over here. All right, base area times height. Okay, so this is all your cheat codes, yeah. Any formula for rate questions? I would say there are a lot of rate questions to consider, but the general one is your speed. Okay, know your DST triangle. So distance is equals to speed times time. Difference in the differences itself. That one, you actually have to check the particular question in how they phrase their patterns, but it's possible. All right, I will want to say the notion. Okay, I will just zoom it out over here. So I will just zoom it out for those who needs to take a screenshot or anything. Okay, due to time constraints, I will actually just answer maybe two more. Okay, 2022 syllabus, and this year, your paper 2 last question guaranteed is a real context, very long one. Otherwise, paper 1 short questions, paper 2 long questions. Okay, let me just answer a few more. Yes. Compound interest formula gives total interest. Simple interest formula only gives the interest. That's right. Okay, maybe answer a few more. 3SF, Deepika. Question never say always 3SF. Okay, let me answer a few more. Difference in addition is common. That will be a common difference, Chloe. Okay, I have quite a bit. Okay, I've answered this. From my point of view, currently, if the exams tomorrow, please sleep early. Okay, I know it's a very weird advice, but please sleep early. Don't overwhelm with yourself, because if you overwhelm yourself or overstimulate yourself, it might actually cause more panic in the revision you've done so far. Okay, know the standard formulas that you need to go to, revise your basic rules that will help you out. Okay, don't do too many questions already. If you have a difference in difference, okay, that one you have to identify the pattern accordingly. I won't be able to gauge depending on the general trend now. For now, just this few and that'll be enough. Okay, I think there are quite some questions not really say relevant here. Okay, I will stop here in this case first because I don't want to drag too long. Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain them in the tele chat. All right, so because they are not very relevant to the paper, I do apologize. Okay, but for those who are looking for questions that actually not gone through in paper 2, all right, the suggested solutions will be posted to you after the stream, so please look out for our Telegram channel. Okay, so thank you for that. And yes, all right. So I hope it helps a little, even though I go through only 3 questions in particular. All right, so for the rest of the questions, if I'm able to answer accordingly. Okay, now for those who are actually done, let me just do a little bit of outro over here. So I understand that this isn't really the concise revision for those who are not looking out for, but all right, thank you for your time. And in this case, just let me do a little bit of formalities before I call it a day. So for those who are actually sort of looking in for goal of going to JC, I know some of you are not going to JC, but it's okay. Just listen in, or in this case, if it changes your mind. Okay, so for those who are locking in for O levels with the goal of going JC, just tell yourself, all right, understand that tomorrow is a paper and I should not jinx it, but it's another whole level lah. Okay, so in this case, these are just some things that you take note in the Reddit chat and what's not. Okay, not to curse or anything, but this is the reality. So what happens? We are there to actually help you to transition to a JC 1 years, and these are just some testimonials lah. Again, it's a two-way communication, and based on your responses that I get from you all, you need to work on your basic formulas lah. Okay, then what happens is, okay, if you guys are interested, all right, you can sign up for the early bird. Take note, you don't need to pay anything. It's really just lock in for you guys to actually lock your position, so that if you feel like, I feel like signing up for JC1 because you find this good enough, all right, you can sign up straight from there. Okay, you don't need to lock in anything. Okay, so I'll give you a while to take note, maybe a few seconds while I answer some questions here. No problem. See, I am very grateful for your response. No problem. Thank you. Let me see. Is there only formula? Usually for number patterns, the formula I focus on is common difference lah. That is one thing. Okay, let me see. Sketching of graph needs to write on line of symmetry. For quadratic functions, yes. That's the only focus. Max mean height depends on the question where they ask the max mean height. Depending whether they got asked lah. Okay, let me answer a few more. Cheat sheet for O-level E-math. Unfortunately, no. But if you all need to take note of certain formulas, we will actually consolidate and try to do it up for you all lah, if possible. Okay. Then standard deviation, all right, look out for the stream that is submitted, all right. There are actually some calculator hacks that you can look out for. Mensuration formulas, please look out for the cheat sheet hacks over there, all right, okay. Those hacks will allow you to remember the mensuration formulas. Okay, before I move on to the next few questions, okay, I hope you all have signed up for those who are. Okay, so in this case, that's where we are going to go to. If you need additional help, you can join the Tele channel and feel free to try to put in your questions. All right, you can try to ask some last minute questions and I will do my best to answer them before your paper tomorrow. All right, so no problem. Okay, so let me check. Proportional questions, all right. Okay, you know what? Let me just do up a little while. Okay, later on. Okay, give me a moment. Tree diagram depends on the question, all right. Okay, there's a high demand for what are my predictions for tomorrow? Be expecting a construction question to come out. That's one thing I can take note. More viewer context question, lesser of those soft questions. Yes, so let me see. Okay, all right. I think there is a very high demand for higher mean means cost consistent. No, Vanessa, higher mean means higher mean means there is more of that stuff. Consistency links with standard deviation. Okay, so remember that. Okay, so in this case, yes, all right. If you find this helpful for you, all right, thank you very much. Just scan here to leave a Google review for me. And in this case, I know I will not forget. Okay, I will actually go through a little bit of the proportional question style. I think the percentage change, that is what I'm going to look out for. All right, so video for vectors a little bit late, but I will try my best. There's no notion over here. Shading of sets. Okay, this one, you will actually have to take note of the notion of the shading. So that means you need to know what is N. N means both regions are accepted, or means I can have flexibility in the regions that I have HN. Okay, so once again, for those who are here, thank you very much. Okay, I hope you all find this helpful. Okay, please feel free to leave a Google review. Otherwise, for those who wants to stay on a little for the inverse proportion, all right, please feel free to stay on maybe for 5 minutes or so before I call it a day. All right, if not, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Let me just stop the recording first, yeah?